Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm bringing you guys the first Meta Monday of 2023! Except it's not. I think I put a Meta Monday out like very early on. Actually, did I? Oh no, I think it's the very first Meta Monday of 2023, which is kind of pog. And then on top of that, if it's not the first Meta Monday of 2023, it's the first Meta Monday after the newest hotfix, or really this the seasonal patch. So the patch we're on now, post hotfix, is going to be the patch that we play seasonals on. Actually, let me get all of this junk out of your guys' way while I'm talking to you all and explain to you guys like how cool this really is. And basically, with the way the Riot dev team decided to do things, is they didn't have a patch scheduled until like 10 days before seasonal, which is what they always do. But on top of that, they noticed that players were really unhappy and wanted to push this through so that way people could get more time to practice for the seasonal patch, as well as just please the player base overall. So they decided to put a hotfix patch in sometime last week, which has been absolutely amazing. Stopped like Aatrox Vayne from just completely dominating the meta, Seraphine from dominating the meta. Aatrox Vayne's still very solid, but the Seraphine deck has really fallen off. I don't even think that deck exists anymore in a real, really. So yeah, that's the really biggest change, and it's really brought to light a couple dominant decks. Number one is Lulu Jinx, and number two is Feel the Rush, which we'll get into here because we're going to go over the top 8 most played decks over the last 2 days. Usually I do current patch or the last 7 days, but I don't know if current patch counts the hotfix or not, or if yeah, I don't know if current patch counts the hotfix, so I'm just going to be doing the last 2 days. And then on the next Meta Monday, I'll do the last 7 days like I usually do, because that'll include, even if current patch isn't, they're not counting the hotfix as the current patch on Runeterra.ar. We know that the last 7 days had to have been on the hotfix, so it'll give us really accurate data. So before we get into the video, I wanted to remind you guys that 68% of the people that watch my videos aren't actually subscribed to me. And if you guys could do me a huge favor, click on that subscribe button. I know, like I said, the holidays were kind of busy for me, so there wasn't a lot of content coming out the last 2 months, but I literally have videos prepared for the next 3 weeks already. I already have those videos, some of them recorded, edited, all that type of stuff. So a bunch of stuff. I'm focusing more on content creation this year and the next couple of years than I'm going to be focusing on competitive play. So a lot of my focus that I was putting into competitive play, those 5 hours of scrimming a day, the like grinding ladder, all that stuff, I'm going to actually be putting into my content and into my Twitch channel. So make sure you guys go follow me over there on Twitch, twitch.tv/emotional. The link's in the description down below, because I'm going to put a lot of that effort into there and making better, higher quality content for you guys. Not just the, here's a Meta Monday, here's a Sweaty Thursday, here's like one deck guide, call it a day, or here's some gameplay where I just play a game. I have a bunch of ideas, a bunch of collabs coming up, a bunch of different types of ideas that isn't just strictly, oh, here's deck guide, here's gameplay, So if you're interested in that stuff, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go follow me over on Twitch, because that's where you'll see a lot of this stuff first, or you'll see a lot of things that don't fit into a YouTube video that's different than just LoR, regular stuff like that. So with that intro out of the way, let's actually get into this Meta Monday. So first deck we're going to look at, most played deck, is going to be Lulu Jinx. So this has kind of been decided to be the like a boogeyman of the meta. This is supposed to be like the meta deck right now, the dominant meta deck, and it is very solid. It's very good. We see here is Lulu Jinx. It's a very swarm style deck. One of the things I'll be putting out with the new content on my YouTube channel, which is why you should subscribe, is I'm going to be putting out YouTube shorts, which are going to be, some of them are going to be 60-second deck techs, and I'm actually going to come out with the 60-second deck tech on Lulu Jinx tomorrow. So again, make sure to subscribe and look for that. It'll just give you a little bit of how to play, as well as, I'm going to do a full-on gameplay with Echo Jinx. So it kind of shows you the power of Jinx, but this deck really uses Lulu to its advantage with the Flame Chomper. So this deck isn't necessarily new, but what is new is the Jinx buff. So Jinx got buffed to where whenever she does level up, she gets a Mega Death Rocket in hand that turn. So you essentially get an extra 1-mana Decimate, and then she just becomes a threat immediately. It isn't going to be a, oh, I really hope she survives, because even if she doesn't survive, as long as you get to level her up, then boom, Rocket is going to be extremely powerful in that regards. So this deck likes to stay really low to the ground, swarm it out with Lulu, take board control with Flame Chomper to Lulu, make a 4/4 challenger on turn 3. Nothing can really beat that. And then late game, after you do swarm and swings and Sneaky Pickle Dust, you're just going to burn your opponent out with things like Get Excited, Electro Harpoon, Pokey Sticks, and then Jinx's Super Mega Death Rockets, so 1-mana Decimates. Deck number 2, that's the most popular, the second boogeyman, is Field Rush. So if you see here, this is not like any, what is this deck list? This deck list bad. This is not like any Field Rush deck we've really seen in the past, where in the past it's been very much known as, oh, Field Rush SI Freljord, it's a control deck. Guys, it's that control deck that plays like Withering Wail and, you know, like Vile Feast. I guess it still plays Vile Feast, but it's like, oh, it plays Withering Wail and Box and, you know, some really cheap units like Avaros and, what is that? Avaros and the 2/1 that like dies and draws you a card, the 2/1s, like, oh, stuff like that to chump, value, draw, all that type of stuff. This deck doesn't play that. This deck plays 3, 6, 9, 10 ramp spells. Literally 25% of your deck, a quarter of your deck is ramp spells. This deck is, the idea behind the current meta Field Rush decks is literally just ramp to 9 mana as fast as possible. Play Field Rush on turn 6. Play Field Rush on turn 7. Play She Who Wanders on turn 6. She Who Wanders on turn 7. That's really what the new meta of this Field Rush deck is trying to do. And it's a lot different than what we're used to. But it's able to work because aggro is not particularly great right now. The only aggro deck that is good is going to be that Lulu Jinx deck, and if the opponent isn't very good, or if they get a really awkward draw, a lot of times you can beat them out with just like an Avalanche or an Avalanche Vile Feast, or like a Quietus on their Chompers and stuff like that. There are like small ways to stall here, as well as, you know, Faces of the Old One can just save you a little bit of damage, like it can block into something maybe, you know, like there's a lot of things you can do, or not a lot, but there are some things you can do to stop that aggro swarm from happening if you were to run into it. And mid-range textures aren't very good anymore. Aatrox's Vayne was really good because of Vayne being able to just destroy your opponent, any type of slow opponent, with her essentially like pseudo rally every single turn. But Vayne got nerfed pretty hard. Even in this deck, if you like really have to, you have Flash Freeze Quietus to kill the Vayne. You have Quietus to kill any scary equipment card. You can just Harsh Winds to freeze and buy you a turn. And then once you do play these gigantuous units, because of the way the Aatrox spell, the World Ender, was nerfed, they're not going to be World Endering you very early on. So you don't have to worry about that. You still have the Buried and nice If That Stairs, you know, one-sided Ruination combo. So this deck is just all around extremely strong. It is going to be a little bit weaker into the a bunch of like rally decks or mid-range rally decks. Like you see here, Tourist matchups, like, oh, what is this? It's like an OTK style deck. What is this? It's like a rally OTK style deck. It's like attack you multiple times deck, attack you multiple times deck. Burn deck is going to struggle with because it doesn't gain life. Let me pull this deck list back up. Because this deck doesn't really gain life outside of like your few catalysts and your like 1 HP gaining Vile Feast. So because you cut off the Tavern Keepers and stuff like that, you know, Boom Kuruki is going to be very good. Fervors are just going to be very good. But you see here, there's literally no Vengeance in this deck. Like there is like no fast speed removal. This deck is not interested at all at really interacting with you. It's just going to ramp into its very large things and kill you. So that's what it's going to struggle with over here. So I know this is already like a longish video, like we're already like 8-9 minutes in, but I really wanted to go over these two and kind of explain to you guys why they're very big in the meta, why they're so dominant, and what you could look to abuse them with, as far as, you know, like what makes them good, why they're good, and then you can use that to kind of brew up your own answers. That you see here, thanks to Runeterra.ar being an amazing site, again, link down below to Runeterra.ar, you can see like what decks are already working for them, so you can choose one of those. Or if you just want to try and brew up your own concoction, there you go. Now you know why they're so good and you know what they do best, so you can try and counter that. So now we'll go through the other 6 pretty quickly. Number 3, Red Gwen. Red Gwen got nerfed. The Rise and Faller or Fallen Reckoner, it got smaller, so it's a 5-3, or so it's a 4-3, and then the other version's a 5-3, I believe, something like that. I don't know. It lost like -1 attack. I don't know if it lost -1/-1 or -1 attack, but I assume just -1 attack. So it got nerfed. It's not going to be putting on nearly as much pressure. I think it's still a very solid deck. I just think it was like a good nerf that needed to happen to kind of bring back its oppression a little bit. But the deck is still very strong. Deck is still really good. The only downside is usually this deck was beating other mid-range decks or beating like kind of slower decks. But because Field Rush isn't really slow anymore, you still beat it because you just like, I mean, you should be beating it. Let me see here. Yeah, Red Gwen still beats it. Yeah, 37.5% against Red Gwen, because you do just apply a bunch of pressure. A Katarina obviously wins you the game if they don't just have, you know, Avalanche to check your Katarina, or if you have a Mark of the Isles to, you know, counter that. Like, let's look at the top 1 player. Look at that, he's on a Mark of the Isles. So if you do just slam Katarina on 3, they try and avalanche you play Mark of the Isles swing, you win the game because you leveled your Katarina and you're going to be rallying every turn. And we already said before that attacking a lot of times is beating these Field of Rush decks. So that deck did get nerfed, but still very solid. Next deck is going to be Lurk. So people are picking up Lurk, I think, just to kind of play aggro because it's a new meta. So a lot of times in new metas when we have something shaken up, like when you have you know, a bunch of the top decks get nerfed and people are trying to figure out what wins, what does well, good old reliable aggro will get you across the finish line a lot of the times. It's a nice deck to just farm bad decks with. That's what aggro does best. And you see here, what is it beating? Oh, it's beating a lot of random junk. It's beating like Rise Nora. It's beating, it's beating Rise Shadow Isles. It's beating Nora Heimer. This deck is coming back to try and counter the Lulu Jinx. It's beating just like what is this? Like, what are these decks here? You know, like Vladimir Braum. Like, it beats the shitty bar decks that bar's nerfed. Like, it has game into Field of Rush. I could see it being better now. I know back in the day it actually used to be really good into Field of Rush because your 2 mana free attack was really good. Now it's probably like really good into Field of Rush because they're not on 3x Avalanche, 3x Blighted, Vengeance your Rek'Sai, you know, like they're not on stuff like that. They're not on Ruination really anymore. They are on the like If That Snare Is Buried in Ice combo, but typically you don't have to worry about that unless they can also If That Snares you the next turn. So a lot of times on like turn 6 you can overextend because if they only have 6 like unit mana, the next turn they're only going to 7, they're not going to be able to If That Snares you, so you don't have to play around Buried in Ice that turn. So I could very much see it being really good into the into the Field of Rush style deck. So that's the halfway point. Next is Draven Jinx. This is again just going to be a like, oh, let me abuse Jinx because Jinx is really broken. I think this is just going to be worse than Lulu Jinx if I'm being completely honest with you. And this is coming from someone who literally won a seasonal championship, won $10,000 playing Draven Jinx. I'm known as like the discard aggro guy. I don't see it. I think that Lulu Jinx is just new discard aggro. I think this is Boomer discard aggro and Lulu Jinx is Zoomer discard aggro, so you should probably just be playing Lulu Jinx. If you need Lulu like in a competitive lineup, you want to use Lulu and something else, sure, you play like Draven Jinx, Lulu Poppy, and then like something else, and there you go. You have this like degenerate low to the ground swarm aggro style, you know, lineup. So it can be very useful there. On ladder where you don't have these restrictions, these champion restrictions, probably just play the more consistent better deck, and that's what Lulu Jinx is. It's more consistent. Number 6 is Mono Shurima. Deck is not good, 46% win rate. I don't know why people are playing this deck. I'll be honest with you. Deck is just bad. Your best player on this deck has a 57% win rate. That's not good. Your best player on Lulu Jinx has a 93% win rate, has a 92% win rate. The lowest win rate on the top 5 is a 76% win rate. And your best player on Mono Shurima is a, 57% win rate. Deck's not good. Avoid this deck. They're playing it, I guess, to beat these random junks that are countering Lulu Jinx, but it's not worth it. Not worth it. Deck just bad. Don't play this deck. Save your OP. Don't play this deck. Zed Hecarim. Deck is very mid. This is very much a high roll deck. This reminds me of Lurk, but just going to be like worse than Lurk. It's going to be games where like if you're ahead with this deck, you're going to win. Whereas Lurk, sometimes you can get ahead and your opponent can do this and get it, you know, bring it back. You don't really bring back games from Zed Hecarim. They kind of just kill you. So it's good in that regard. It's kind of just more polarizing Lurk. So against the same decks Lurk beats, so you see here, it's very clearly beats Field of Rush. It's going to be good into all the random junk because you're just this degenerate aggro deck. You're really good into Rumble Vein. Let's see, how does your, yeah, like here, you're beating, you know, like the old guard. Let's see, I'm sure you're losing to the, like, yeah, you're losing to just Lulu Jinx. You're getting destroyed by it. It's a literal 0% win rate into these two, which is pretty funny. But yeah, so this is very much good into like the second best deck and to all the other random junk. But you're just going to get smoked by like Lulu Jinx, Jinx Echo. Any type of aggressive deck is just going to absolutely destroy you. And yeah, that's basically what it comes down to is, do you want to lose to aggro? Fine. This deck is very polarizing. It beats non-aggro really well. It loses to aggro really hard. And the last deck we're going to look at here is still Vayne Aatrox Quinn. Oh, would you look at that? That's me. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm up here. My win rate dropped a lot because I was experimenting with new builds of the deck. I wonder which build it has here. Does it have the fan build? It does. So it has the 2 Darken fans. So I was experimenting with Darken fan. I think I'm on like 1 Darken fan now and still like one of the tough things. But I personally, I think this deck is still good. Like, I think this deck is definitely tier 1. I think it beats Lulu Jinx. Does it say that on here? Or do these stats not say that? Okay, it's like almost 50-50. I'm telling you, I win that matchup. So the matchup is very winnable. Deck is very solid still. You lose to Trundle Aatrox because you just don't have the clear Vayne domination very often anymore, and because they're just too fast for you. But you can definitely still win that if you can pull ahead, you can win it. If they don't have a crazy ramp start, you can win it. But a lot of times you're just going to be beating, you're just a very solid deck. You're going to be close to 50-50 into a lot of the field. You're going to be just hard beating bad decks. You're going to be 50-50 into a lot of the, good decks. So it's a lot of agency. If you think you're a good player and you think agency is real, go ahead and pick this deck up. I just think the deck is very solid in the sense of it's very consistent in what it wants to do. And if your opponent doesn't have a very clear, this is my counter plan for this deck, then you should be doing a fine job. So that's it. That's your top 8. It's really cool. I don't think I'm on these like top play, the top win rates very often. So very pog. Cool. So yeah, that's the top 8 most played. Now we're just going to look at the highest win rate decks. And look at these right here. So Jinx Echo, Dora Viger, and Leona Katarina. Again, Leona Katarina is pretty weird. It has a really small amount of matches, which means it's typically just like a couple people hard carrying it. So you have like Trinithan, very solid player. And then there's like Fire Rebellion, obviously really solid player. I think this person got like, I think they like top 4 to seasonal or top 8 to seasonal. I know they top cut a seasonal. I made it very deep. I think it was like top 8 or top 4. So very solid player. Trinithan, a very solid player. Kwako, solid player. So very much like being carried by players probably and people not knowing what they do. You see here it gets bodied by Lulu Jinx. Apparently it beats Jinx Echo, but realistically the stats are too small to really know how good it is. But it obviously can't be like the worst deck ever. Maybe I'll put a video out on this. If you guys want to see some gameplay on this deck to kind of see what it does, let me know. I will say last time I did this type of thing where I said, I don't know what this deck is, it looks kind of weird. Do you guys want me to put a video out on it? Ended up being the best deck in the game. It was the Noxus Viego deck where I said, wow, this deck looks weird. Let me try it out. It literally ended up being the best deck in the game. So we could have one of those where it could be the best deck in the game, or it could just be a complete dud. Who knows? Next deck, number 2, Dora Viger. I think this is just hard countering the Lulu Jinx and just aggro decks, if I recall correctly. Yeah, like 66% to Lulu Jinx, 71% into discard aggro. Like it's just beating a lot of the aggro decks, like Rumble Vayne even. So here's your lurk. So any aggro deck is just getting bodied. So is this very much a meta call? If the meta shifts away from these hard aggro decks, which it probably will, because again, aggro decks tend to dominate the first couple days of the meta being shaken up, this deck will probably fall off also. And number 3, Jinx Echo. So this deck's actually really cool, and I do have a video of Jinx Echo coming out this week where I play and show you guys this deck. This deck is very cool, and I really like this deck. It's kind of like Jinx Zillion, but it's just better because you get to play Jinx instead of, or sorry, it's like Echo Zillion, but it's better because you get to play Jinx instead of Zillion, and you get to play an actual champion, which is cool, instead of Zillion, which is not an actual champion and not cool. So very solid deck, very cool. I played it, I think I went like 6-1 today, 5-2, 6-1 on stream. And those will be the games that are going on to the YouTube video this week. So deck is very, very good, and I'm excited to put the video out for you guys and show you guys how this deck works. So those are the top 3 highest win rates for the last couple of days. These are the most played decks for the last couple of days. Hope you guys enjoyed this Meta Monday. If you did, make sure to like, comment down below. Let me know what deck you guys are using to climb ladder this week, what you have answers to the meta. So go ahead and type that down in the comments below. All that stuff helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Links down in the description below. That's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.